Another huge move in the transfer market may be transpiring for Derby County, as there is another link through the Derby County Transfer Forum. But who is it this time, you might be asking? And you've probably noticed by the thumbnail and title of this video that Derby are potentially looking at a potential deal for Sorba Thomas. Sorba Thomas is a winger from Huddersfield Town who have just been relegated to League One. And he's a player who could be available for Paul Warne to sign at Derby County. And here is Sorba Thomas. A lot of you may know the Welsh international very well. You may have seen him in previous campaigns versus Derby County. And it's time that Derby County may be interested in him. And I think it's a deal which would be very good for both parties. I don't think Sorba Thomas is going to want to play in League One. I think he's got way too much quality for that league. And I think we saw it as Derby County when we only had 6 contracted players. 3 of them ended up disappearing from the club, with Christian Bielik moving on loan and then permanently the season after. You then had Lee Buchanan, who found a way out of his contract, as well as Nathan Byrne. So obviously Huddersfield aren't in the same situation as Derby, where they were coming out of administration, but there is an opportunity that Sorba Thomas may want to leave Huddersfield Town, and that is going to be very interesting to take a look at. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below or in this top corner to stay tuned for all my latest transfer talk and League One and Championship talk as well, and maybe even some Euros videos heading into that competition this summer. Also, take a look at the membership link down in the description to take a look into what you can do if you do join the membership of this channel. It is only $2.99 if you do want to do that. Obviously, no obligation. Now we look at Sorba Thomas here. His contract expires in 2026, so 2 years' time. And he's 25 years old. Now, this could be an expensive transfer, but it could also end up being quite cheap in the grand scheme of things. Now, Sorba Thomas has put in some excellent performances over recent years, and he was pivotal in the Huddersfield Town side that got to the playoff final just a few years ago. And he's a very, very good player. And if we do look at his career, he's obviously been at 3 clubs in his senior level. He's been at Blackburn Rovers, where he played 17 games, getting 2 assists. He's been at Boreham Wood for 86 games, where he got 8 goals and 5 assists. And then Huddersfield Town, where he's shown exactly what he's capable of with 7 goals and 31 assists. Obviously, you'd probably expect a few more goals, but it's that wing-back role. Sometimes you don't really get in those positions. So in that time period, he's made 228 appearances, 16,395 minutes with 15 goals, 38 assists, 43 yellows and 1 red card. Now, as I mentioned, he's a very versatile player. He can play right back, he can play through the middle, he can play on the left, on the right, he can play through the middle as a number 9. Like, he's got so much about him as a player, and I think it's something that would really, really tickle Paul Warne's fancy, because you've got a player who can play in all of these positions. He's played all these positions in his career so far, and he's only 25. You look at how we've used the likes of Kane Wilson and Joe Ward and even Ryan Niambi, even Louis Sibley. They've played multiple positions this season. You also then look at Max Bird, who was more of a holding midfielder not 12, 15 months ago, but has recently been playing as part of a front 3 with Nathaniel Mendez-Lang and James Collins, and that's how he started the season. So having someone like Sorba Thomas, who is so versatile and can play in so many different positions, would be a massive deal, in my opinion. I think it would be a perfect replacement for someone like Tom Barkhuizen, who can also play in these similar positions. Now, I think this deal is a lot more difficult than like one for someone like Jamal Lowe or Bossen Lowell or even Victor Johansson, because there's no sort of seem to push for Sorba Thomas to be leaving the club at the moment. Now, the season did only just end in the Championship on the 4th of May. We're talking about this on the 5th for an upload in that next week. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things transpire with Sorba Thomas. Now, let's take a look at how this deal could go. Now, his contract expires in 2026, so there's 2 options, obviously. There's a permanent deal for Derby County or a loan deal. Now, obviously, his market value, according to Transfer Market, is currently £4.1 million. Now, that valuation will drop because they've gone into League One. There may even be a clause in his contract that, given a drop to League One, it might have a release clause, but I couldn't find anything talking about release clauses or anything like that with Sorba Thomas. Now, a relegation anyway could drop the evaluation, because if Sorba Thomas wants to leave, like, you're instantly not going to pay how much he's worth anyway. Now, I probably think the deal that Huddersfield would like the most is probably a loan deal where Derby County probably take on a percentage of his wages, so that if they were to get back into the Championship, he's still there. Obviously a loan fee as well, because they seem to be all the thing now. You obviously look at how Derby bought in Corey Blackett-Taylor, £300,000 loan fee, and he's now our player. So for me, I think a loan would probably work best for probably both parties, really, because I bet he's on a decent chunk of change at Huddersfield, and it's one of those where Derby County won't want to be breaking their system too much when it comes to wages. Obviously, I believe Stephen Pearce spoke about it in a recent interview, where 45% of our revenue goes on wages, player wages, and obviously going into the Championship, that is going to have to boost. It's got to, because I think our current wage bill is about half of the average wage bill in the Championship. So you are going to see players on much more money coming into Derby County over the next few months as this window transpires. But I think Sorba Thomas would be an incredible show of strength from Derby County. Do I think it's a deal that's going to happen? I don't, if I'm completely honest. I just can't see a way that Derby can make this work. As I said in my video about Victor Johansson, I just don't think there's enough. I don't think we're going to be spending over £5 million in this window. I think at maximum we spend 5 million, if that. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't even spend £1 million in this window, because of how we've done business over the past few years. And I think that's something which we need to take into account. Now, as much as Sorba Thomas is an incredible player and would be an incredible signing for Derby and Paul Warne, I just don't think it's going to be one that is financially viable. I think wages-wise is going to be quite expensive. I think an actual deal in itself, like, I think at minimum it's going to be £2 million, if not more. So for me, I just can't see Derby County dropping that money on one player. Obviously, since David Clouds has come in, we have been under restrictions, business plans, and all sorts of things. So signings haven't really come at a cost. Obviously, Blackett-Taylor is the first one to come at a cost since Kamil Jóźwiak back under Philip Cocu. So it's been a long time since Derby have spent proper money, and I do think they're going to have to do that this season. And I do think they're going to do it, but I think it's probably going to be £300,000 on Iber Adams, maybe £500,000 on a striker. I think it'd be very interesting to see what we do in these areas. And I think Sorba Thomas is an incredibly talented footballer, and he's shown exactly what he's capable of at Huddersfield, especially in that season where they got to the playoff final. And for me, I think he'd be incredible in this Paul Warne side. But the problem we have is on that right-hand side, you've got Ryan Niambi, you've got Kane Wilson, you've got Joe Ward, and you've got Jake Rooney. Now you've got Rooney and Niambi, who can both play centre-half as well. You've then got Wilson and Ward, who can both play in a front three or in a 4-2-3-1 on the right-hand side. And I think this is what begs the question about the legitimacy of this deal and this link, because I can't see Derby wanting another right winger or another right wing back. Like, if he was going to come in, he'd have to be part of the front three, because that's where we're lacking numbers. Obviously, with the only natural forwards we have is Connor Washington, Nathaniel Mendez-Lang and Corey Blackett-Taylor. Obviously, Barkhuizen may get his contract renewed, but as of the time I'm recording this video on the 5th of May, he hasn't yet. So it's one of those for me. I think there's a situation where Sorba Thomas could come in, but I think it would have to be a loan deal. I think that's the only way this deal would work. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this deal. I think it's 25% going to happen, 75% not going to happen. I just can't see a way that Derby County make this work a cost-effective way. But then obviously I don't know the budgets. I don't know what Paul Warne and the recruitment staff are going to be working with. And obviously that is where I fall down in this discussion, really, because I don't know what potentially could be spent. And obviously we don't really have any options of players that we could sort of move on for a fee to then pay for it, if that makes sense, unless we got rid of cash in. But I can't see that happening unless we get maybe £50 million. Because obviously we rejected we wanted 4 million when he had a year left on his contract and we was a League One club. We're now a Championship club, and he is more than capable of playing at this level, in my opinion. And he's contracted till 2027, so another 3 years. So if you do 4 times 3, that puts you on 12 million, and then you obviously put in additional extras, so appearance fees and shit like that. So for me, cashing ain't going anywhere for less than 15 million. I'd probably say 20 million really, but we'll have to see what happens with that one. Obviously, a good season in the Championship and automatically is going to be a lot more than that. So let's just see what goes on with this. I can't see this deal happening, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next video. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.